So welcome to Bunny's Designs. What I thought I would do first today is show what's in my very chunky Derwent canvas art bag. So you've got a big pocket here, and just because this is not going anywhere at the moment, I popped these in the outside, but they'll probably go on the inside if I was actually going out anywhere. In the car it's not so bad, but if I was going on a train or going away somewhere, I'm walking about with it. Now mine just does zip. Whoopsie. If you can see, the zips actually meet, but it is quite chunky. It's got a lot in. It's got everything I use for my art at the moment. This is my art bag, so it'll go sit on the end of the sofa, it will go in the car, it will go anywhere else I want to go. It's a little bit heavy. I would say it's £4, maybe 2 bags of sugar, I would say. But when you see what I've got in here, it'll be fine. So I keep the handle together because I don't actually zip it up normally. I just put the handle together, and you'll see why, because of the way I use this. Sorry about my desk being a bit small. So if I turn that over there, oopsie. So no, that doesn't help, does it? That's better. So in here there is, it's quite deep, is this. Let me get a ruler. I've got any inches on that. I don't have any inches on that. Oh, wait a minute. Let me get all the actual inches on. So yeah, it's a good 2 inches. 2 inches without the zip. And there's a big kind of full-size netted pocket. So in here, I've got to be a little bit careful because I do have a blade, but it is on an eraser. So I have my sharpening tools, my sharpening guard, I have my little pot for the water, a couple of pencils, some blending tools, a drawing tool that I use when with permanent Indian ink if I want to alter any of the colour books and add extra detail. A Derwent eraser. There is actually a few extra pencils in there, watercolour pencils. When I say watercolour, I mean the Derwent sketching pencils. There's 3 or 4 different ones, and there's some Graphic a palette knife, and there is actually a Caran d'Ache because it's the driest one at the moment I've found, but I don't really use that too much, but it's in there. 3 or 4 blending tools, but this is the one I use the most. And put that in there. I haven't quite decided if I'm going to be doing watercolouring or blending, so I shall leave those there. So I'll zip that back up. So I normally have my little tray, my tin, and I have this little pot which I put water in. Now it had hand cream in it, so I think that's why it's not gone rusty. So I find that's perfect for the paintbrushes. So in my little book, in my little bag, I have 72 Derwent pencils. So they start, and I don't put them in here purely because I get them out and I find this I've got arthritis, so I don't need them in there. I just use them all the time, every day, so I don't tend to put them in. But I would, if I was going away, I would flick them in here. But I'm tending at the moment not to use it like this. I'm just taking the ones out that I'm using. So I've got and they're all in the same kind of colour order: yellows to oranges to reds to pinks to purples to blues, teals, greens, and then we've got olives, fawns, browns, greys, black and white. And then I have my, again, the same colour order, I have my Derwent Inktense pencils, and they're 72 of each, the full set. I've had them a long time, and this is a set of the round ones and the hexagonal ones, so there's two different sets there. And then on the back of there I've got the Graphitint. So there's 72, 72 and 24. And then I have my original set of pastels, that was a portrait set, and I have 36. These are very pale colours, and I think there's only two colours. There's an orange earth and a chocolate that are in this set. So although I've bought another set, there's only two, which I quite like. I don't like duplicating things, but anyway. So this is actually a completely different set. So 72 and 36 is 108 pastels. Is it 72 and 36? Yeah, it's 108 pastels, I think. So I love these. So the pastels are here, and then this is the full set of the new Derwent pastel pencils. This set's quite old, and this is a new set. This is the brand new Derwent pastel pencil set. And again, I've got them on the back of this one, so there's 72. And they're in the same numerical orders, colour order, and numerical as well. These are in numerical order. So again, I like that because it's just a bit easier. The difference is this is almost pure pigment. Pastels in any form are the nearest thing to pure pigment you can get. So that's quite wonderful, because you don't really need a colour chart for these, because they are nearest the colour. They've only had a slightest soft binding, and that's what keeps them crumbly. And that's the same with the traditional fat pastel pastels. They again have very little pigment to them. So that's why these are almost pure pigment. So what colour you see at the end is the colour you get. So I have obviously the back of that particular one. So I've got 3 out of these. So what I tend to do, and in here you can fit quite a large sketchbook. You can get most books in here, but you can't zip it up. But you know, there's no reason why you can't get a colour book in there. You can zip up the sides and be perfectly safe. It's just the top. So if you were going in the car somewhere, you've got your colour book and all your colours and all your supplies. So you can get a colour book in there that's a normal printer paper size. We say A5, which is about 11.5 by 8, something like that. That will go in quite happily. You just can't zip the top up. So I've decided I want to play in here today. The paintbrushes I use to set the pastels, so that there's 2 ways I use these. I'll just bear with me. Welcome to Bunny's Designs. This is a live stream with live people, so welcome to Bunny's Designs. It's also recorded for YouTube for people to watch at their leisure. So I'm just getting all my things organised for colouring, and I haven't decided if I want to use blenders or a water brush. Now, not a water brush, a water a rigger, a thin, a very damp, a very undamp, a very dry brush. Sorry, the mouth is not connected to the rest of me today. So let me just see if I can just move this about a bit. So if anybody's got any questions, if you pop them in caps, because I don't tend to take any notice if it's not in caps, and because I get very easily distracted. So I work two ways with these pastels. One is probably a traditional way, and the other one is definitely not. But the best thing to do is to go and have a look at the Derwent Pencil Company website, because they have a lot of videos about how to use their products. I use the pastels in a completely made up way with the damp brush, because I remembered using the pastels 30 years ago, 40 years ago nearly, with watering them down and using them as a watercolour. And I tried it with them and I love it. Now, it's a brilliant way to use them on any paper. If you're worried about going through, you get some gorgeous shades from the dark set, from the pastel set, and you can also leave them as a pastel if you don't want to, and blend them with a little blending tool. And then you're not using any water, and you can do this wonderful for Bible pages and for colouring in a Bible page, because there's just no water. The only thing is they're not set, so you have to put a piece of greaseproof paper between. So I was having a bit of a play and I couldn't decide really what to do. I like this one, and especially this is actually a painting anyway, so I thought that would look really wonderful. But I thought I might have a go at this one, because I photocopy things quite a lot as well. So the pages are very, very smooth. As I say, I just had a go. This is my made up way of using my wonderful colours. They're very easy to do. Because they're soft, they just smudge on wonderfully. You can use your fingers if you want. If you want more precise colouring in, the pencil's perfect. And then a little blending tool makes for very little use of colour, which again, I like. Tight Yorkshire Lass. I suppose that would look quite nice as well. Let me have a look at the painting of this. So in this Harry Potter book, you get some references, which is quite nice. Oh no, this is the one I was going to do, is this one, but then I would have liked to have done it in chameleon pens. So I'm just going to photocopy it because I want to do it in chameleon pens. So bear with me 2 seconds. And again, you see, I envisaged all these. I'm going to swap places because I'm left-handed. And I normally love, this is why I don't put the pencils actually in the ring binder, because I tend to just kind of flick them and have a look. And they're just handy to do that with. Now, admittedly, I don't normally have 3. It depends which painting I'm doing, which colour set I want. But let me have a look. I do like these very pale ones because I use those the first. So again, this would be really wonderful because you can pick out. In fact, I could do this one. This would be quite good. Let me have a look at the reference. Here, yes, that would be wonderful for pastels, because we've got some nice greens and olives, and his little dog there, and he got his nose chopped off. And you can get some very dark leaves in there as well. So I think I'm going to do this one. Now you can't see very well, but there is a little bit of kind of foliage and forest behind there. So I'm going to do this one. Just some nice, there is a nice set. And I'm actually going to colour it into here. So one thing I do need, which I think is hidden, is a piece of tracing paper. Now this is actually quite good quality, but you could use the children's section of any art shop that's normally cheap and cheerful, and all you're using it for is just to protect the page. I've just got to decide. I think I'm going to blend it with the blending tool, which means it won't be set. If got any questions, so I hope everybody can see it okay. I hope I fixed the fan and the vision and everything, because I've had one or two complaints about the quality, and it was because of the noise, hence the headset, which I'm not using. It tends to got rather silly on here, and I'm in the process of getting rid of everything because I can't use anything, and if anything else happens to fall on the floor, I've got to pick that up. It's the pen. So I hope everybody's well, and as I say, I wasn't going to do this today because I'm not. I think something's happened to the. Pretty sure something's actually happened, and I made a coffee a few minutes ago and forgot to use it. So bear with me. Just have a slurp of coffee. And just not. Right. So I'm going to use this blending tool. Now I do need a baby wipe. I'm actually just going to use, I think I'm just going to use a baby wipe today. I can't get up today. I'm not very well, and I certainly can't get up. So apologies for all the crinkles and all the noise that people don't like, but I'll just pop those there. So I'm going to use this. Just got, and I kind of stroke. I found that's the easiest way to clean this. And then a no jumper's quite good. And then if you just use your thumb, it actually comes up really clean. So I seem to have got lots of things everywhere. So I've got my scalpel blade for sharpening, my eraser, and my little guard. And I don't need that particularly. I'd say I haven't been anywhere to actually find. So I've got all the pencils. Now sometimes you can have, oh, the one thing I do need is a spare piece of paper. And this is for my practice colours, because I actually would like to make a good job of this, really. I'd like it to look like what it's supposed to look like. So if I just tip that up and kind of move that there. Hopefully the light's still good. I've got the pencils here. I've just got to think about, am I going to use the pastel set? I don't think I am, but I think there's some really nice colours in here. Are almost skin colours. I would say a lot of those are skin colours and some nice greys. And I think there's about 6 greys. Now these are not as, if I'm not going to water it, dilute it with water, set it with water, I have to start in the top corner, and I don't want to do that. So we might set it at the same time. Let me have a think. If I just get a brush out, have a look. That little brush I use for blowing extra things off. And we'll look at the number 3. I think I've been using this number 3. So I will actually get a spot of water in there. So I've just dropped that into there for some water. I'm just going to sit that on there. Because what I'm going to do is I'm going to do something that I've never done before. I'm going to do the best of both worlds. I love the effect of blending with this. But then I want to work here. And so that's going to cause a lot of problems if it's not set. So what I intend to do, just bear with me, make sure that I've just remembered, did I do what I was supposed to do? Because, yes, I did. I forget to hit the Logitech microphone, and so the voice is sometimes not with it. So I'm going to mix all the pencils together. So I've got the pale set, the pastel set, and the new set that I bought a couple of weeks ago. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to blend with the little tool, and then I'm going to set it instantly as I go, as a pretend practice. Let's see how that goes. And again, what you can do to have a real good start is get some colours out. Have a look and get some colours out. So we have, this is almost a pale pink. So I'm not sure, it's maybe too pinky because it's a flesh pink, is that one. There's a violet oxide there, let's have a look at that. I normally start with things that I know what they are, because it just makes that a bit easier. I mean, we could do Hagrid first. So Hagrid's kind of got a red. There probably will be a bigger, whoopsie, I don't know why that happens. I still haven't got my desk organised yet. He's obviously got a dark, but he's got black hair, but it's got a shine on it, so that's almost a grey. Quite fancy doing this bit up here. So if anybody's got any questions, pop them in caps. There should be some quite nice colours on this set. A lot of these colours, sepia colours. So we've kind of got that colour going on. Oops, it's not good. That's actually quite a nice base, colour is that, and that's sepia, but I think I've got a French, and that says that one's most of these colours will go on this. That's probably the mossy bit. So there isn't, it's more sandy colours rather than and there's a bit of purple there, look, so we've got purple. And a little bit of there's a couple of kind of greens. I'm doing quite well in this particular corner. Yes, that's quite a nice colour as well. So this pastel colour is quite nice, but then I would like some vivid ones for behind. So we've got some quite nice colours, and I don't think I've got a grey out yet. So we're doing very well. What's this one? This is terracotta, but it's a pale one. Yep, that's again a bit pinky, so that's quite nice. And there is actually the tiniest bit of terracotta, which I think we could use. And a burnt carmine, and I just want, I think that looks quite nice. Yes, that would look quite nice for some. You can do quite a lot of blending. I think that's going to be okay. It's just very strange that all these colours are all taken from one section. So if I'd have actually known that, I probably would have left it. So I'm not going to get any more out. I don't even think I've touched a grey. Haven't touched a grey there. The grey is actually on the roof. These are very warm. The stones are warm, but the slate's cold, so I'll use the greys for those. So what I'm going to do now is start with the darkest first. This is what I always do, because especially if you've got a lot of colours, I think that's the next brightest colour. I possibly should have left them as they were. These are very similar. It's just slightly darker. Then we've got the three greens. It's tone I'm looking for rather than an highlight. So they're in order of where I think they are in shade dark to light, but then we've got the colour section. So what we need to do now is open the page. Just going to put that here so I can see what I'm doing. So if I roll those over there and put this here. So we're going to start, the palest ones are going to be on this side, so this is quite a nice one. So what we do is a little bit of this, and some of them are connected and some of them aren't. And then maybe, in fact that's wrong, because that's almost going to be a white, so I can take that off. That's a highlight. So what I might do is actually zoom in. That's probably a good idea. Let's see if we can zoom in, if I can pick out my little oops, I'll go across here. Right, so we need to go into here. So that looks quite good. Just test one other thing. Did that make that better or worse? I think that's possibly just a little bit better. So, I just leave that there. If I leave that here, got a little bit of a reference. So we've got a bit going on here. It's not like the other ones. There's an awful lot going on here. So you kind of want just a little bit of all sorts. And then my little test. So this is quite a nice kind of a grey kind of colour. Whoops. And I must have broken the... kind of must have broken that. So I'm going to have a bit of coldness under all of those. And it's a case of just filling up. I'm actually going to put a lot of colours on here. And we've got some greys going on here. And then we've got a little bit of green going on. So I've got quite a lot of colours here, completely different, never worked this way before. So I've just got to see what happens, see if it works out okay. Just want to build up some character in those stones. And then we've got a warmth up there. And this has now got some kind of nice deeper down here, deeper colour down here, because obviously this is where it's going to be quite a lot of shadow. So we need to keep the palest section for the palest bit and the coolest for the coolest bit. And again, I say I'm using an awful lot of colours here, so but if you look in a stone, you would probably find at least 100 colours and shades and tones and so we've got a little bit of terracotta now coming in, and you don't need very much, just the tiniest little bit, just to kind of keep everything together. And then this is one of the darker tones now, so in between Postman Pat alert in his shorts when we have a frosty day. So bless him, he's in his shorts. So I'm going to darken this up a bit, although it must be darker, and that needs some dark undertones, and that one's as well, because we have a little bit going on down there. So again, now start where the shadows are, and again you have more control over your pencils than I have over mine. So this is kind of a really nice, rich, dark. So again, when we finish, we'll start with the lightest areas. And then we can kind of blend in some nice shadows. And then last but not least, this very dark blue indigo, which is going to really kind of give that some depth in there. So you don't want it everywhere, you just want it where there's going to be some kind of really dark areas. Now actually you could leave it like that if you wanted, it looks quite good. But what we do now is we take the Magic Blender and we start with the palest. And you're just smushing that about. I don't actually have a lot of colours on here at all, on this first one. Start there, just. And remember, this is a colour book, you know, it's got to be fun. It's not a work of art as such. You know, if I was doing a work of art, I wouldn't be sitting in this angle, and I probably wouldn't be streaming, because you can't concentrate if it's you've got to be comfortable, you've got to be in your zone, and you can't do that when you're talking. So it's a colour book. And one thing I've forgotten to do, so if I'm happy with that, and I'm happy with that. It's not brilliant, but it's a colour book, it's completely covered in colours. I don't have any highlights. Let me just see if I can put the highlights in there. And I normally do this, so you can, with a normal eraser, you could just rub across, and that will just give you a basic. But if you want a very, very defined highlight, like I think we have, in fact I think these should be a little bit darker actually. I think there should be some quite dark tones under here. So that when you do have your highlights, just blend those in a minute. Because I can't go back into this because I'm going to set it. So it's got to be right kind of first time. Sounds like a mini drill, but so there's a highlight on this corner. And on the top, and then there's one there. And the beauty of this particular eraser is it has a very flat edge there, so you can get a line, and then I can go back onto the next one and take that off. So I think we've got maybe so I quite like that. I may finish the chimney stack and then, because the colours are a little bit warmer than are coming, just a little bit warmer. But I'm not playing with it. There's some terracotta in there, so it is actually a little bit warmer. So I'll clean that. And I'll just, oops, didn't mean to do that. And just do this. Better, sorry about that. Right. So just smush that in a bit as well. And then I'll go back in. I'll do what I normally do actually, although I've used a lot more colours than I normally would. I'll just go in with my get a basic flat colour down and then go back in with a highlight and a shadow, and then any really bright ones I'll just erase with the eraser. So it gets darker there, then it gets that little bit paler. But stones are quite nice to study because once you've drawn a few and painted a few of the colours, you get a feel for how they're made, what grows on them, how things are affected. So I'm trying to master pastels on the digital thing. And so this is proving a little bit too difficult today, but I quite like that. I quite like that, and again, you know, just made it up. Never done this before. Whether it all falls off your page, I have no idea. I intend to wet this one and show you how I do that. Really have a spot of bother at the moment. I was considering not making any more videos anymore, but then again, what else would I do with my life? So there we go. I really like those colours. They actually are warmer in real life than they are on there. So again, I'm going to go in there with this one because it's a little bit cooler. So this one here. I'm going to go back in where there's hatching and cross hatching. So you find most colour books, they're very good. They actually tell you, show you with this hatching and cross hatching exactly where you should be putting all your darks. I do actually quite like that highlight I've got there, but I would like to get rid of all these lines. I don't like these lines. So again, I can go back in and give it a bit more depth. Now normally I would say that's what a stone should look like, but of course this is dilapidated. It's not, this is kind of all so again, you can get some nice effects on this. And keep the nice colours you've got, but just darken the darky bits and then the darker bits. And again, it seems to be I don't really want to lose all those nice colours I've got. I have to be a bit careful, which is why I've not used black. This is a blue. It's a sooty kind of blue. And that seems to work and look a bit more realistic than. If I push that over there, you might keep some nice colours a bit much truer than they would be normally. I think I liked it before I've put the dark on it, but never mind. I can go back in with some paler colours if I wanted. And remember, most of these are actually skin tones I'm using, so they're kind of already organic, even though it's skin tone. Just clean that, and then it won't be as dirty, because we don't want any more dark on there now. But it's going to give it some character. And again, you know, it's just a colour page at the end. It's just so I quite like that. Now there isn't going to be too much highlight on this. There's a bit here and a tiny bit there. So again, I'm going to go back in with the eraser just to touch that corner and that bit there. So if you can't see it, and then just the tiniest bit on here. And I don't think there's much more. There was supposed to be a tiny bit on there, but and we could take, if we had too much dark, we could take a little bit off there. I feel like a dentist drill. Sorry. Just, you can almost spot where you would want a bit of a highlight, you know, if you were looking at it. So I kind of like that. I think that's just about enough. I can go darker, I think. I might just go that little bit darker there. I just have a silly problem with this. I think that can be almost kind of, and then just put some chocolate in there. Just, is it chocolate? No, it's not, because it has to be a little bit warmer. And it does want to be kind of really dark in there. So you can kind of bring that down. It does want to be quite dark. So I think that's done that. I think that's going to be as done as it's going to be. I've got some nice colouring in there. And so what I'm going to do now, and again this is a total making up as I go along. I've got my little number 3 graduate Daler-Rowney Riggy. It's damp, it's damp. I'm just going to wet it, and you need it a little bit wet but not saturated, and I'm just going to stroke, so I don't want to move anything, it's all blended in. I actually want it to stay where it's going. All I'm doing is just stroking over the top. So I'm starting where it's the palest, and I'm just, so you can see, if I hold it up to the light, you can see how damp it is. It's just a bit damp, and then I'm going to go up there and make sure that that's all done. Come down there, and then last of all, and you can see maybe just where it's a bit shiny. And you will have colour on the end of your brush, so you don't want to go anywhere else, really. Just darken them up very slightly, but there is colour on there, because remember that's how I do my watercolours. I put colour down dry and I take it off with a wet brush, and it works in exactly the same way. So again, I'm just going to take that little damp wet brush on there and touch that, and then I'm going to just, so if you've blended correctly, it shouldn't move too much, but you've got to keep it quite dry because it'll buckle if you don't, and that was the intention before you started, that you didn't want any buckling. So I am technically going over everything again, which I don't normally like to do, but it's worth it in the end, because I'll show you. So we want the next one, and I'm literally drawing across with a damp brush. That's all I'm doing, and we haven't used a lot of colour, it's all blended in. But what that's doing is fixing the pastel on the page. So you don't have to use fixatives. So you've turned it from a pastel into a watercolour, but it still looks like a pastel. But the old masters used to use, I mean, if you've got your pastels, you don't want to go buy some watercolours, you've already got them. And especially this gorgeous water set. I'm going to get these into my little watercolour book, this portrait set, because they're the most beautiful, wonderful colours that would take me hours to blend to get these real colours. You've got to concentrate what you're doing, because if you forget where you are, you'll go over it twice, and you don't really want to do that, and you don't need to. But as a watercolour, if you went back over it, it would reactivate back into a watercolor because it's not got any fixative in it. All it is water. You've turned the pigment into a watercolor. So as I say, just like any other watercolor, it will activate back. And as you see, there's the tiniest little bit of, it goes colder. Sorry, I can't talk today. Colder. So it's dry because you've used a tiny amount, and it's completely set. Unless I've missed a bit. It's completely set. I think I've done it all. Sometimes darker areas, like charcoal, takes more than you've done, but so that actually now is set. So I was quite pleased with that, and the paper is completely flat, and that looks really quite nice. I'm just going to take a photograph. Put that one there. I'm going to take a photograph of my colours, because here I have all my pencils, and I've got them in a little bit of order from light to dark. So for all these stones, I know to work this way. So I'm going to be a bit of a sad girl because this is going to take a while. Yeah, this is not going to be a 2-minute job. And it means you can break off and go do something else. This is going to take, I would say, a few hours. But it's going to look, hopefully, pretty good. You know, this is not a 2-minute scribble page. That's it. And this is like when you do the blending with all the pencils. You know, it's an hour. It's days rather than hours. Probably days. The beauty of it is, though, just put that like that. Just take a photograph of that, because it means I know what colours I've used, because at the moment I have a rather large issue with my thumbs, but this means I know what I'm using. And also it means that if I get some more nice stones that I want to colour, I've actually got a set here. This is almost like a palette now, if I can actually get to the colours, read the colours that I need. So that means I've actually now got a photograph of a set of 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. I've got a set of 12 colours, which are quite nice for stone, natural coloured stone. So that's something else that now I've learnt and I've got, because I've never done this before. This is how I play with watercolour sometimes, but I don't normally play like this. So, you know, it's a learning curve. I'm learning as I go along. So this has been an hour. So if I can show what I've been using, which is, just pan out, and I'll stop this video and start another one. Onto that one. So that's the start. So what I've used is I've got my reference, I've got my colour book, I've got some pencils that I've played with on a piece of paper and had a good look at the colours, chosen the colours. So there's my bit of smush. I've got an eraser, I've got a little brush, sorry, not an eraser, I have a blender, I've got my little pot of water, and I've got my cleaning tool, a baby wipe, to clean the blending tool. And that's all I've used. Oh, and my little eraser, my electric eraser. And that's smooth, so I quite like that. I quite like that, and that actually is going to pop quite nicely, as the original does. So I can get some really nice darks. So what I probably have to do is do all the stonework, then use half of these colours for the actual roof and incorporate the greys, and then put those pencils back and then work on the background, and again find out the colours of the trees and the darker areas, and then put those colours back and then do the foreground. So that's normally how I work. It's you have to have a little bit of a lot of artists for years, they'll be drawing and they'll go up, even with a paintbrush, up there, down there, over there, and I'm just can't do that. I have to get this right, and then I'll go do another bit and another bit, and then I can't, and I do the same, because if I went away I'd forget how I did that, completely forget how I've done that, will not have any idea. I shall have to start watching my own videos. But I love the fact that it looks like a pastel and it's blended, and yet it is now set. And again, it's an exciting thing. It's a different colour book. It's another way of working. And it's easier for me is this than blending with pencils for this. 6 or 7 colours for each stone. Yeah, that's going to take you the same amount of time. I think probably longer, but I cannot physically blend pencils. I can scratch a little bit of colour with that and then use this quite big chunky tool to just again smush, and then a little bit of a pastel pencil to just kind of dampen it so it's set. And that system works really well, and it's really quick, so I can see a good result. Rather childish. So that's part 1 of Hagrid's Cottage in the Harry Potter book with the Derwent pastel pencils, but this is the actual pastel portrait set. I've stayed with the portrait set because I love these colours. When it comes to the background though, I'll have to use the other set, some of the darker ones, but I love these. These are skin tones. These are all skin tones, so that works really well for those stones. So thank you for watching part 1.